This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
3FM Lagos.
Two Nigerian companies have been blacklisted by the World Bank over fraudulent, collusive and corrupt activities connected to the National Social Safety Net program. The two firms, Viva Atlantic Limited and Technology House Limited, will remain blacklisted for the next 30 months. They have agreed to rigorous integrity compliance conditions as a prerequisite for their release from this disbarment. Radio Now's Nabila Usman speaks with Umar Yakubu, who is the Executive Director, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Integrity. Mr. Yakubu begins by discussing the implications of this debarment on Nigeria's global image.
These are issues we need to take seriously because in Nigeria, we don't take issues of due diligence seriously. We only look at corruption doesn't only entail taking money from government coffers, it also entails doing things the right way. So now that the world is a globalized world where you can do businesses in different countries, you can do a contract in a different continent, there are certain measures you have to comply with. So when the country does not take the standards in terms of compliance with regulations seriously, you find out Nigerian companies fall into trouble. There are so many businesses abroad. You find out that Nigerian companies cannot even bid for because our level of due diligence and scrutiny and compliance with local laws and international laws are so low. So that's why this is being seen and Nigerians being debarred on the World Bank list, on the IMF list, and the African Development Bank list. These are very common. And when you are debarred on one list, they have like a network where they share all the information. So you find that Nigerian companies are doing very badly. And this is because our due diligence levels and compliance are very low.
So an interesting thing is that this is connected to procurement processes from 2018. That's about 7 years ago. Can you give us a sense of why it takes this long? Is this a typical practice? Is it an auditing problem? Is there a way to catch it sooner?
Yeah. The World Bank is a development organization. They want to bring development to different countries of the world. So sometimes when they are rushing to do something, they realize that scrutiny takes time. So they onboard companies. When they onboard companies to engage in some of contract or provision of service or something else, so when they onboard on the background, they do their due diligence, make sure that all the documents you submitted are true and they are accurate. There is no fraud in it. There is no conflict of interest. No conflict of interest. There is no association with any politically exposed person. There's no somebody behind the company pushing an agenda. So when those details come out, that's when they come and review your documents and query you. If need be, I believe they have a querying system where they will ask you questions. And once they query you, then if they find you wanting, then they will penalize you and debar you.
This debarment essentially is for 30 months, meaning once the 30-month period elapses, this company can re-engage with projects, right? But I want to come back to Nigeria's own sanctions systems, because this was tied to the National Social Safety Nets project. Now, the World Bank has doled out its own sanctions. What sort of sanctions should Nigeria as a country be considering? Would you say that we need to institute our own independent investigations, or do we piggyback off the findings of the World Bank and then mete out some sort of repercussion or the other?
You see, this Corporate Affairs Commission is responsible for the regulation of all company registered in Nigeria and of company ownership. A part of their work entails finding out the share structure, the owners, the partners, the businesses, what they're using it for, who owns the companies. So these are the due diligence issues that need to be done to hold for us to avoid this kind of thing. So what we need to do here back here in Nigeria is the Corporate Affairs Commission, the CAC now, is to ensure that there's something they call beneficial ownership, really owns that company. We have a lot of shell companies and a lot of shelf companies being used for money laundering, for illicit financial flows, and even for tax evasions and doing other public sector corruption issues. So the due diligence aspect needs to be strengthened. So the regulatory compliance, and of course, apart from the CAC, there are other partners that need to come in. Let's say the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, they need to come in there. The Central Bank of Nigeria needs to come in because they regulate the banks because of most of them. And a couple of other stakeholders like the civil society to have access to Corporate Affairs Commission portal where they can see the real ownership structure of companies. And of course, the code of conduct the to come in because most of these issues you find that behind the companies are public servants.
You've just mentioned a list of actors who are involved with part of the transparency and accountability role. But I'd also like to ask about the EFCC and say the ICPC, because we're still talking about what is essentially an economic crime. Can you speak to us on what these agencies should be doing in terms of monitoring private actors or companies that are, I don't want to say signatories, that might be the wrong term, but private companies that are involved with the implementation of some of these World Bank projects? What should these agencies be doing to ensure better compliance?
Yeah, in combating this type of corruption related, let's say, to the World Bank, there are preventive measures and there are reactionary measures. The EFCC and ICPC usually come in the reactionary part because their duty involves investigation and prosecution of crime. Or if the prevention aspect, if let's say the Corporate Affairs Commission ensures that there is proper regulatory compliance and due diligence on the ownership of the company, what that means is that any politically exposed person of interest, conflict of interest, will not even be able to own a company behind the scene. That will even need to go all the way to the World Bank for us to be debarred. This is where the problem is. It's a preventive issue. All these issues, that is why usually for prevention, some aspects you find that they are penalized, government, or they pay penalties, or maybe the people are suspended for a certain period and this kind of administrative sanctions.
Umar Yakubu is the Executive Director at the Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Integrity. He was speaking to Radio Now's Nabila Usman.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.